Hello everybody, welcome back to this reboot of the development stream. Hopefully this one is going to be very fine because I have finally repaired my desktop computer, so hopefully there will no more be any problem with the stream. We'll see in a moment. Just let me know if there is any issues with sound. I have put some music in the background. If you feel like my voice is not loud enough compared to the background music, just let me know, and if everything is fine, we're going to start. So, like I said on Twitter and on the Discord, it's going to be a redo of the stream of last Wednesday, because last Wednesday I've tried to stream and everything melted down because I was streaming from my Surface Pro and this thing doesn't have a powerful enough CPU to do stuff like programming and streaming at the same time. So everything blew up and I've got a lot of drop frame, and I believe that people who were there couldn't see anything. So I hope that today everything is going to be okay, and if everything is okay, I should be up and running to do more stream every week. Okay, let's say hi to everybody. Hey Kamabunta, hey Terrarian. So for you, everything seems to be fine. Sound, music, video, cool. Okay, so this is just to show you our latest progress. We'll go through the same thing that we did on the last development string, but this time we're hopefully going to get this right. So I'm just going to show you what is the latest state of our current game. Hey Anton, how are you? Okay, so just getting there. So this is the state of our prototype, like it was last Wednesday. We progressed a little bit since Wednesday, but this is going to be featured in next week's stream. So lately we added some new kind of enemies, some enemies that doesn't attack, but they work around every walls. So these are just little slugs that are not going to be any harmful in the game. They are just going to be moving around and exploding at yourself if you get too close. And once you clean the room, you can just go to the next one and you just get an enemies. So there are not yet that many kind of enemy type in the game. So here in our test levels there are mostly only one enemy who just try to follow you and stay at range and fire. And here is a level that is procedurally generated. So each time that you start this demo again, it's a new kind of level. I'll just show you a little bit later how all of this is generated and how it works within our tools. So there's nothing much to do yet. This is still an old demo because we have reworked a bit how the combat works. We changed, we added a combo system, and we changed a bit the physics. We added a double jump. This is in another branch of our game right now, and we are in the process of just merging everything into the same demo. Okay, so that's pretty much it about the current prototype. And what I wanted to show you is our game editor. What are the different features of this editor? So the first feature that he has is the room editor. So every room in the game are going to be handcrafted, We did the same thing in Neurovoider, even if in Neurovoider it looked way more random. And it was an open game, it was not a room-based game. But it's basically exactly the same generation algorithm that we are using. So we are designing rooms. So here we have our room editor. It works pretty much like any kind of tile-based 2D editor. You have the tile set on somewhere and you can just select tiles and you just paint them over. And that's it. Well, how to use an editor. It's a pretty simple one. There is not even some layering feature because in ScourgeBringer we are not going to use any layering, so it's going to be pretty simple here. You can visualize the colliders, so the red ones are totally blocked, unwalkable colliders, and the orange one are the ones that the player can go through. And in this editor you can also place enemies. So to place enemy you just have to grab them and to put them on screen. What is specific to ScourgeBringer here is that here I can change a number, and this number represents the different waves of enemies that is going to be in one room. A wave is a bunch of enemies that are coming one after another. I mean, here I have the wave 0 that is designed, and if I just go to the wave 1 and start placing enemies, the enemies are going to appear only once the previous wave has been completely cleaned. So this will allow us to do a bit more complex stuff about rooms. Not every rooms are going to be like this. Very few ones are going to be with waves, but it's going to be to design some more challenging rooms, so maybe ones with mini bosses and so on. Maybe we are not even going to use that in the final game, but it's something that we wanted to design and just play with it. And we're going to try this and see how it works and if everything is going to be okay. So I'm just going to catch up with a few questions. So, is it okay for you to? Yes, sure. Yeah, of course. Feel free to ask questions. I'm going to try to answer them and so on. But so yes, this is ScourgeBringer. ScourgeBringer is our new project, the one after Neurovoider. It's our next big project. So it's going to be out, I believe, in about 1 year from now, maybe 1 year and a little bit more. We are scheduling a release for the end of summer 2019. So we are still a long way before the release. This is a very, very early prototype of the game and our tools, and we are just going to do more development on stream like this until the game release, so we can show you how things goes. Okay, game FPS seems very low. Yes, that's because of the recording. I haven't figured why the FPS is this low while I record. This feels strange because my CPU is not quite loaded. Okay, yeah, that's our new professional product. Well, so regarding the rooms and placing enemies, that's everything that is to show right now. There is not going to be anything more complex here. That's well, that's how we design room and so on. The little trick that is, if you have seen the enemies that are following walls, I'm just going to restart the prototype here, just to show you. Okay, these little slugs are following walls, but it's very automatic when you design enemies. So here they are in our editor, and you just have to place them along walls and they're just going to by themselves stick to walls and follow. And now how we put all of this together, I mean how we generate levels and how we grab rooms and plug them together. So another feature of this editor is that we can visualize what we call a topology of the generated maps. So each time I click here, I have another shape that appear and a tile-based shape, and this is the topology of the map. So that's what we generate in the game, and each white square, each tile, it's going to be one room. So this means that every neighboring tile are going to get a door and a connecting room, and that's really how we generate levels. We get this small white map, this tile-based map, and we replace each tile by a room from our room catalog. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's what he was using for New World 2. In New World we were designing bigger chunk of open-ended maps, and we were generating and using the exact same algorithm to generate a bigger and open map. But in ScourgeBringer we're going to go with room-based feature gameplay. So, but from an algorithm point of view, and the generation is strictly the same like in Neurovoider. So we haven't reinvented the wheel here, and it's something that is quite simple but yet very versatile, and you can generate really any kind of shape if you just tweak a few parameters and any size of level. So for instance, this would be a very, very huge level. In Neurovoider there were some levels that may have this size, but since it was an open gameplay, this wasn't much of a big deal. But in ScourgeBringer, cleaning a room is going to take more time than just it's not the same pace of gameplay, and so maps are going to be way smaller. I believe that if I just grab my slider here, so a map in ScourgeBringer is going to be more in the line of maybe this size. Yeah, it's going to be around this kind of size. So just questions. Still published by Plugin Digital? We don't know yet. We have no publisher on this game so far. We are going to look for a publisher, but for now it's not signed with anyone. So another question: is it a set of room for each number of connection room case? Each room linked to 5 more rooms will be selected in a pool of encrypted type connected rooms. It's a bit like this, but not quite. Let me explain. So here we have let's just take the first room. So the first room has 4 doors. I don't know if you can see on the stream, but you have one rectangle, I'm going to shape it like this. You have one door here, you have one door here, and you have one door here and one door here. So you have, this is a room fully connected with 5 doors, so it can be placed anywhere. But this doesn't mean that when you generate a map, you can fit this room only on a square where there is 4 adjacent rooms. What we do when we generate a map is that we can put this room basically anywhere, because we are going to remove the doors that are not going to be connected to anywhere. So this allows us to use a room that is basically designed with full connection in any kind of configuration. Here in the editor, we have some statistics about each kind of room that we have in our catalog. For instance, we have here 7 rooms that are connected that can be connected by 4 doors. And these statistics just tell us if there are any type of rooms with a certain number of connections that are underrepresented compared to the other rooms. And this is just an indicator to tell us when we generate a level that the catalog is well balanced and that you are not going to see too often twice the same room. And our objective is to have a lot of handcrafted rooms so that you don't feel like anything has been handcrafted. It's going to be way more random, and at least when you try a new level, you should have a really new experience. So, what do you think of shows like GDC and PAX for announcing games? Well, that's a super tough question. It depends on a lot of things, and it's really a per-based thing. I couldn't really answer this question really shortly because it would be like a 1 hour stream just to answer this question. So I'm just going to go through other features of this editor. So the other major features that we have in the editor is that we have a bullet editor. So I can just have a preview of our bullet emitters. So this is a very simple bullet that is going straight in front. I can tweak multiple parameters of these bullets, like its angular velocity. So if I increase it, the bullets are going to do some fancy patterns. And I'm just going to clear this preview. And what's very interesting about this programmable bullet pattern editor is that you can program some more complicated behavior of bullets, like programming what we call actions. And for instance, I can program an action that is going to change dynamically the properties of the bullets while it's getting fired. And here I'm going to just give you an example. So I'm going to replace the values of the current bullet half a second after it has been fired. And I'm going to just change its angular velocity. So what's happening here is that the bullet is getting fired, and half a second later the action is triggered and the trajectory is changed because I have overridden the angular velocity. And this will allow us to do very fancy bullet patterns, but it doesn't mean that ScourgeBringer is going to be a bullet hell or that it's going to have some very complex bullet pattern. This is a tool that we wanted to do to be reusable through multiple projects, not just ScourgeBringer, because in Neurovoider we had a very basic bullet engine, and we were not quite satisfied with it, and we didn't quite like it to work with it. And we believe that it's this bullet engine that ended up making the bosses of Neurovoider that was not that great. So we really want to correct this and start from having a very useful tool that will allow us to really well fine-tune bullet patterns, bosses and enemies before we move on with this. And so this is just a part of the bullet editor. The other part is the emitter part, and the emitter part, it's more the part where we are going to really design the pattern. So the other part was just the behavior of one single bullet, but here we are going to design just some, well, I'm just going to show you. So what I can do is just add different kind of, each point is going to be the source of one bullet, and I can define a sequence of bullet or multiple sequence, or even some burst fire. I mean, if I just do something like this, and here in action I'm going to, no, go back. And here 0.5. Okay, so here what I've done is I've just defined a sequence of bullets to fire 3 in a row and then wait for half a second to fire a next sequence of 3 in a row. So that's just a very simple thing to do burst fire and so on. But what's interesting too is that I can just add other sequences parallel to this one, and I can define what is going to be the bullet used and also what is going to be the origin of fire. So here what I've done is that I have duplicated my first sequence, and I have used another origin of fire to design a more complex bullet pattern. And this will really allow us to do any kind of bullet pattern. I believe that with this we can do mostly all kind of bullet hell stuff. But like I said, it doesn't mean that we are going to use all these features and very complex bullet pattern in ScourgeBringer. I don't think so. And we don't want to do a bullet hell. So don't fear that I'm going to make very complex stuff. And also I know that a lot of people don't like that bullets change physics over time. So like here in the example in the live preview, I have a bullet that completely changed direction over time. So that's absolutely not physically accurate. And I know that a lot of people just hate this. So we are maybe going to use this, but very, very, very carefully. What we want is that bullet patterns are very readable and that you can go through them very easily and just learn them without having to be surprised that something just changed direction out of the blue. Just going to catch up with your questions. Yeah, Terrorian reacting that, asking if there are game announcements at GDCs. Yes. GDC is more and more used to announce game. Some people use the GDC to announce game. But there is an official showcase of game at GDC. So GDC, the Game Developer Conference, is an event mainly focused on game developer, and it's a professional to professional kind of event. But there is an official game showcase. There is a show floor, and so there are regularly games that are being shown there, and some of the press is also attending the event. So yeah, some games are announced or shown at this event. It's not quite the best way to do so, but it's getting some attention, so it can be relevant. And as I was going to, if they are not US based, Nathan, I believe that you mean the GDCs. There is no more GDC in Europe. The only GDC that exists now is the one in the US, and I believe maybe the one in Asia. But the one in Europe doesn't exist anymore. The last one occurred in 2016, I believe. Last one there wasn't any, and it is not planned that there are new edition of the European GDC, because I'm not sure about the real reason, but I believe it's a question of audience. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing of testing weapon live like we have at New Raider, in the inventory of New Raider, but that's another thing. Yeah, another interesting thing, it's worth mentioning that everything that you see here in this editor, it's the engine of the game that is running behind. So we really have the game running while the editor is running, and you can just edit things live. It's really the same data, it's the same thing. There is a game behind. And maybe at some point we are going to expand this editor to have a live test area, something like you can just click a button and you are in the game. That would be super useful to test weapons, to test enemies, to test rooms right away, with just having a super live preview of a playable thing. It would be very easy to do so because it's exactly the game that is behind it, the same code. All the code is shared, and it's the same technology. It's monogame, just being embedded into this editor. And well, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you. So that's what I couldn't show you last Wednesday because my stream were dropping a lot, and I'm just looking at OBS right now and I see 0 drop frame. So that's pretty cool. That went quite well. The only bummer still is that, like Anton said, it feels like the game is not running super smoothly when I am streaming it. I still have to figure why. I really don't know why the game is not freeing us. But I'm going to figure this out. It's already cool that I've been able to resume those development stream to just show you where we are right now and where we are heading. So what we are going to do in the coming weeks is that I am working on getting more enemies into the prototype, and also, like I said at the beginning of stream, to fine-tune all the platforming and the controls that I did in other branch of the game, following the feedbacks that we had during the Stunfest in May. And on his hand, Florian is he's adding more enemies too. He's designing new enemies. He's making animation. He's also preparing new sprite for bosses, new environments, and so on. And we want to start making a little prototype demo of the game that I believe we are going to try to publish at some point, probably through itch.io or something like this. We don't know yet when and how, but if you want to get posted about this, just follow our newsletter and Discord channel, and we'll most probably post it here first. And it's going to be to get feedbacks, so they are most probably going to be the same feedback systems that we used in Neurovoider if you were someone who participated into our alphas or betas. It's going to be the same thing. You will be able to send anonymous feedback to us through the game itself. It's going to be a very, very early demo. There's not going to be many content. It's just going to be something to test the platforming, to test the combat, and just get feedback. And so you can also have a small preview of what we're working on and where we are heading. And this demo is also going to be used to start looking for publishers. That's the work that you are going to do through the whole summer, I believe. I don't believe that you are going to announce that you have signed an editor until the end of the year, because this kind of thing can take a lot of time, and we just want to make sure that we go with the best partner for the game. And yeah. And also another thing worth noting, if you're not reading our newsletter, is that we are going to work a bit less on the game during the summer. And that's because we are going to work for another studio to help them to port their game to the Nintendo Switch. I don't know yet if I will be able to speak about this game until it's getting announced, but I'm going to try to work on this detail and maybe show you how I work on this game. I would like to stream this too, because I maybe won't have the same amount of news for ScourgeBringer while I will be working on this other game, but if I am allowed to, maybe I'm going to do some development stream of how I'm going to work to port this game on the Nintendo Switch. And well, and maybe I'm also going to start porting ScourgeBringer on the Nintendo Switch. It will most certainly just run as is, because it's the same engine that we use for Neurovoider, and we already ported it to the Nintendo Switch, so it should be just running as is. I don't think it's going to take me more than 5 minutes to get it up and running there, but there is always surprises when you start porting stuff, so I can be sure about it. Okay, so well, thank you for dropping by for this kind of random encounter, because I just wanted to stream again the same stream like I did Wednesday, because it went terribly wrong with my Surface Pro not having a powerful enough CPU. But it looks cool. I'll post the replay on YouTube for the next newsletter. So, and I'm going to start restreaming every Wednesday, showing some progress. I'm going to get Florian on board, so you can have some sprites and some drawing of what we are working on regularly. And well, so cool. So if you have any questions, don't forget that you can drop them in the chat. You can catch me on Twitter, and you can also catch me on Discord, of course. So have a nice day, and see you next week. Bye.